In Arcane Season 2, there is a new character, and this new character is called Laurie. Or, well, at least what I could find online, his name is supposedly Laurie. And this character resembles Vander a lot. Over the course of Act 1, or the first 3 episodes, we see some odd or noticeable behaviours and kind of coincidences almost, which set him apart from the other characters in Arcane. One of the oddities that stands out to me most when watching the new Arcane season was in episode 1, and this is when, after Vi has the argument with Caitlyn, and she wanders out into the streets and finds Laurie sort of sleeping there, bottles surrounding him, and decides to sit down. And they share a drink. The weird part is that his overall design is very reminiscent of Vander. And what is more confusing is that Laurie is an enforcer, and at first I thought he was just homeless. He was someone in Piltover down on their luck, and he was homeless, right? But going back into the first episode when I was rewatching it, I noticed that he isn't down on his luck. He is an enforcer, like I just said. And this is really weird because the enforcers are meant to be Piltover's finest. They are the elite of the elite. They bring law and order to Piltover, and to a certain extent, Zorn, as we saw in the Civil War and all of the bridges that they kind of cut off and everything like that. The thing is I'm really confused why he is on the streets, and I feel like we will get into that later on, because if he's with the enforcers, shouldn't he be in some sort of barrack or living accommodation? Because he isn't from Zorn, or at least I don't suspect. As why is he part of the enforcers otherwise? Laurie has to be one of the biggest mysteries of Arcane Season 2. Because at the moment, he just randomly sort of appears. He appears at V's side, and then he gets put onto the task force of Caitlyn's kind of hunt for Jinx. And he's suddenly there when he doesn't feel like he should be there. Where Maddie and her accomplice are they are guarding the memorial service, this Laurie character isn't. He's kind of there as a bystander. So he didn't enlist after the memorial attack, but he wasn't enforceable beforehand. And I assume he wasn't on duty then, because you're not going to be an enforcer all the time 24/7. But it's just odd that none of Maddie or the kind of serpenty dude seem to really acknowledge who Laurie is, or why he's just on the street laying in his own filth. He seems to have a strict moral code as well, which is really interesting to see. He seems a lot like Vander. He doesn't really stand up for Piltover as much as you think he is. He's playing the kind of game by his own rules almost. As you see at the very end of episode 3 in the first arc, when Caitlyn's being elected to this kind of general of the Piltover military / enforcers, he's there, and you see him walk away at the end, and that seems a lot like something Vander would do. Laurie seems to have a lot of sort of moral integrity. He has his own set of beliefs which he stands by, and the end of episode 3 kind of proves that. It does, like I said, remind me a lot of Vander. And I think it complements Vi's character really well. and I feel like they will become a pair, or this character Laurie will defect from the Piltover kind of military police force enforcers group to go find Vi, or help her out in some sort of way, or be an integral role to stop Caitlyn, as you see Caitlyn going down this darker sort of path, sort of pushed onto her by Ambassa. I'm probably butchering her name, much like Laurie's. But no, I feel like that has become rather apparent in the story so far. At first, I was worried that Laurie would be Vander, or like a different version, because I don't know how many of you would remember this, but after the first season of Arcane came out, it was kind of rumoured that Vander wasn't actually dead, and he would return as a different League of Legends character into the Arcane series. And I really hope that's not the case, because if Vander does return, and it does turn out to be Laurie, I believe that would completely undercut Jinx, Vi's, Caitlyn's, like the entire story, because really it all started because of Vander's death. They also have like a different style of fighting, Laurie and Vander. Laurie has this kind of big, brutish, kind of full body shield, where Vander has like these two giant fists. It is similar, besides me personally hoping that they are two different characters. I also just went back to the credits because I did a bit of research before putting this video together, and I could find absolutely nothing. On like I looked the cast up, and I looked on to see if there's like a Wikipedia article or just like any sort of background information, and that's why I assumed I was getting his name wrong. I got his name wrong. It's not Laurie, it's Loris. It is what I was thinking it spelled is like Lori. Well, it's actually Loris. So we're almost there. But the thing which that's the thing that baffles me, you know? It's just the way this character is introduced. I'm kind of thinking as I kind of record this, like what could be happening in the next two acts. Mostly because I find that when I've scripted videos before, right? And then when I've like read them out, they just don't sound as good. I sound 10 times worse. So my unfiltered rambling and then going back and editing it is slightly better. But besides that tangent, I think if Loris doesn't actually, or Laurie, whatever we're calling him now, if Loris doesn't actually leave the Piltover enforcers, he will stay on and act as the kind of heart with Caitlyn's kind of band of enforcers, and he will try and kind of stop them from the insides. And I think that could be a really interesting, like, not, yeah, like a storyline. I feel like that could be a really interesting storyline. It kind of reminds me of the new Call of Duty game, because you've got like the CIA and the defectors from the CIA trying to expose the bad guys from inside, if you know what I mean. It's this kind of we are good, I'm good, and I'm failing to believe in the institutions that have power, and I'm trying to change that. And I feel like that could be a really interesting role for Loris to be in this season, although we don't know much about him now. Once again, I don't think he's Vander. I feel like that'd be a bit stupid and undercut things entirely. But I want to see where this character goes, and I want to hear about other people's opinions, because I don't have many social media platforms, and everything I've seen on YouTube this far has been episode 1, episode 2, episode 3 recaps. I wanted to see some further discussion about the show, because all I've seen is the shipping, and I'll probably discuss that, because it's really interesting how they do the shipping. But I feel like Loris hasn't been mentioned yet, and that's why I wanted to get it out there. So please leave your thoughts in the comments below. Feel free to subscribe, dislike, like, whatever. It probably does something in the algorithm, but like, yeah. Have a good day, and I will probably be making some more videos. I wanted to do Caitlyn's fall from grace, like where she started off in season 1 and where she now is at season 2, and kind of Ambessa's Ambessa Madada's manipulation of her, because that could be really interesting. And it kind of gives a whole sort of like Palpatine, Anakin Skywalker vibe. Anyway, thank you for watching, and if you haven't had enough of this terrible mic, feel free to check out some of the stuff that I will be putting out in the future.